Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to the timeline and slideshow part of this course. Because once you get this is the meat and potatoes of the course. You'll be able to pretty much do anything, and you're going to see how easy Powtoon really is to learn. So let's begin down here with the timeline. This is how you control when an element enters the presentation and how it enters the presentation, when it exits and how it exits. So let's say you're doing a Halloween presentation and you want a witch to come in at 1 second. So you're going to drag this little slider to the 1 second mark, and then you come over here. I'm actually in the greeting card style, and I'm going to click the witch. So she's going to enter at 1 second. And as you can see, Powtoon always puts the elements that you've included in the slide at the bottom. So you can always see what animations or what objects are in your slide by going down here. So if I added something else over here and I click it, notice Powtoon will also put that down here. And if I want to get rid of it, I just select it and then click delete on my keyboard. It's just that simple. So let's select the witch, and now we're going to control her animation. This bar here tells me that she's inside this slide for a full 10 seconds. So from 1 second to 10 seconds. So if I only want her to be in for 5 seconds, I would simply just click and drag and move this down to the 5 second mark. This button right here controls the animation when she enters the slide. So right now there's an arrow pointing to the right, which means she's going to the right or coming from the left. If I want to change this, I click this button, and there's different animations. If I want a hand to put her on the slide, I would click that. This is the fade, so she sort of fades in. This allows her to kind of pop into the animation. This means she's going to come from the bottom, going up, going down, to the right, to the left, and then no effect. So right now we've got right selected. So let's see how this is going to look. Over here on the left side, this is how you play your slides. This button over here is always going to play your animation or your presentation from start to finish. This is how you play the current slide from the start. So let's hit play. And just like that, I'm going to pause it. You saw that she came in from the left to the right because we had this right arrow selected. So if I wanted her to come from the bottom, I would click up. It's a little confusing at first. You just think about the direction that she's going to be going. So even though it says up, she's coming from the bottom. She's going from the bottom to the top. So we're going to click that. And notice the arrow changes here. So let's slide this over, and we're going to click play. Boom. She comes from the bottom to the top. So let's click her again. You always have to make sure that you're selecting the element in order to control it. Over here, this is the animation for the exit. So right now she's exiting to the left. So let me just hit play and see she exited to the left. So to get her back, we need to drag the slider, or the playhead actually is what it's called, and click her again. So if you want to change how she's exiting, let's say we want her to pop. We're going to click pop. And then we're going to hit the play button, and she pops. So let's drag the playhead again and select her. Now let's just say we want her to last a little bit longer on the screen. Well, then we're just going to drag this a little longer. And now here's a tip when you're doing animations for your entries and your exits. You always want to make sure you leave room or time for the animation to happen. If I drag this all the way to the end, this is going to make this null and void because there's no time for her to pop. So she's just going to leave the screen. So watch this. You're not going to be able to see the effect. Notice she didn't even pop because I didn't give her time. So let's go back to that slide. I didn't give her time to leave. So I need to drag this a little bit. Now I'll give her time to exit. See that? So you always want to leave time for your entry and exit animation. Over here, this is how you flip your objects. So when I click this, watch the witch go from right to left. The key is you have to make sure that you've selected the element, otherwise it won't work. This is like a shortcut for your entry and exit animations. So right now you can see she's entering from the left to the right, and there's no hand effect. Now if I want a hand to take her away, I would just click this, and now when she exits, now when she enters, because we're on the enter, watch that there'll be a hand that will put her up. So let's just hit play. See that? So if you want to remove the hand, you're going to click her and then turn that off. So this is like a shortcut down here for your entry and exit animations. Now let's talk about the slide management over here. This first button is the duplicate slide button. So if you've got several elements in one slide, or you're going to create another slide that's very similar to the one you just created, you just click duplicate and Powtoon will just create a copy of that and put it below. So all the animations and everything about the slide will be the same. The clone objects button is quite similar to the duplicate slide, but not exactly the same. Let's say you have 5 or 6 animations or objects in one slide. Instead of duplicating the animation, Powtoon will just duplicate the elements in the slide and just throw them at the beginning of the next slide. So this is great if you're going to use the same animations in another slide, but you're going to change the animation. So let's just say, for example, you have 5 or 6 different elements in this first slide, and you have different animations for all of them, but you want to use these same elements in your next slide, but you're going to change the entry and exit points when they enter, when they exit. You would just click clone objects, and Powtoon will put those same objects in the next slide, but they'll put them all at the very beginning. So now you can control, what you want to do with each element by selecting the different ones down here. So this is great if you want to use the same elements, but you're going to change the different entry and exit points. The movie slideshow toggle right here is really just for working within Powtoon. If you put it on slideshow mode, it will put a little orange cone right here. So what'll happen is, let's drag the playhead over here. When you hit play, it's going to stop at that point. So this is great if you're creating like a presentation, but this only works within Powtoon. If you export this to a movie, it's going to continuously play. I've never really had a use for this feature, but if you're creating a presentation just for Powtoon, I can see how you might want to use this. So let's put it back on movie. Now over here is where you add a slide and delete a slide. So if you want to add a slide, make sure you pay attention to what slide you've selected, because Powtoon is going to put that new slide right below that one. So when I click the plus, a blank slide goes right below that. If you want to delete a slide, you just select it and click the minus. Now, if you want to add a transition between slides, you just select the slide that you want the transition to come after. Then you come over here to the transition section and choose which one you want. Let's just use the squeegee. And notice Powtoon will put squeegee right after that. So let's just drag the playhead a little bit over toward the end. And when I click play, you'll see the squeegee. If you want to move the transition, you just click none. Just always make sure the appropriate slide is selected before you do that. And the final thing I want to mention about the timeline down here is that you can add and subtract seconds. All you do is click the plus and the minus, and this will really come in handy as you're creating presentations. Each slide can have a maximum of 20 seconds, just FYI. And over here, this is how you mute and unmute the audio if there was audio in the presentation. And this is your sound manager for where you can click this and then you can import your voiceover or a music track. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later. So now you've pretty much learned every element of Powtoon. The next thing we're going to do is create a voiceover in a free tool called Audacity. It's super, super easy. So once we've done that, we're going to go back to Powtoon and create a presentation from scratch and incorporate a voiceover so you can see everything in action. So I'll see you then.